what's up guys? And thanks for stopping by the channel. So for this video, we're going to be checking out this Habring2 Felix, and this is the first time that I've personally owned a watch from an independent manufacturer. So I'm trying to expand upon my horological horizons just a little bit and get something that deviates from my normal sports or tool watch habits. Now I should clarify, when I say an independent watch manufacturer, I'm not talking like a micro brand. I think independents typically have a fairly low number of watches produced each year. They tend not to follow the same marketing trends as more mainstream watch manufacturers, but they also have a fair high degree of precision and are well regarded by other Swiss watch luxury manufacturers. Now, if you're not familiar with the brand Habring2, they happen to be a husband and wife duo based in Austria. Richard and Maria Habring went independent about 10 or 15 years ago, I believe. And prior to that, Richard Habring was very well known working with IWC. He helped develop the double chronograph or the rattrapente functionality in their pilot's chronos. And Maria Habring was a well-established watchmaker in her own right, and Habring itself as an independent brand has garnered a lot of attention and accolades within the Swiss watch manufacturing industry. For example, when it comes to the Grand Prix of Horology in Geneva, they won a few awards. Specific to the Felix here, back in 2015, I think it won an award beating out any of its competition for a watch under 8,000 Swiss francs, which is quite impressive because at first glance this watch looks fairly simple, being a three-hander, but it's quite sophisticated, and these watches retail for just under 5,000 US dollars, I believe, so you're getting a lot of watch for the money. Now in terms of case dimensions, this is a 38.5 millimeter case. If I flip the watch to the side, I think right off the bat you can see how thin it is. On paper, it says it's about 7 millimeters. I actually measure about 8.5 millimeters when you account for the sapphire crystal on the front and backside of this timepiece. The wingspan, so that's the lug-to-lug distance here, is a nice 45.9 millimeters. You can see how the mid case just has lugs that curve down to conform to your wrist. And I really like that they have drilled lug holes too. So if you want to swap straps later, it's quite easy to do. Speaking of which, the lug gap here for the supplied leather strap is an even 20 millimeters. The strap that's supplied, I think just suits the nature of the head of the watch because it's fairly thin and it's broken in quite well. Has some nice contrast stitching along the sides, albeit a fairly standard polished pin buckle that's unsigned. But if you take a look at the underside, I think this is calf leather here, and you do have the Habring embossed logo on the underside. So here's a quick in-studio wrist shot just to show you how well this Habring2 Felix wears on my 7.5-inch wrist. That's 19 centimeters in circumference if you're going with the metric measurements. And looking down the barrel, you can just see how thin it is. This will easily slide under any dress cuff or jacket. It sits very planted on the wrist and is extremely comfortable for all-day wear. So taking a look at the dial layout, I do want to mention that you can actually get this dial in multiple different configurations. For this one here, you have a silver sunburst dial with rose gold printed markers and a hand stack. And it has a nice sunburst effect to this dial. At certain angles, you would be easy to miss it, but there's a nice vertical striation pattern on the dial itself. And it's something that's kind of subtle, but you learn to appreciate and enjoy the more you wear this particular watch. I really like how this dial utilizes negative space very well. There's minimal printing. It really just has the Habring2 and Austria printed below the 12 o'clock. And aside from the 12 o'clock being an Arabic numeral, the rest of the markers are simple batons that are filled nicely with a rose gold color. And even though there's no lume on the dial anywhere, I think it plays with the light very well. And in anything but total darkness, you can get a very accurate read of the time quite quickly. I like the use of asymmetry because you can see that there's a large sub-seconds register that's been shifted to the 9 o'clock side there. And there's nice concentric circles that emanate out from the center of that subdial. And you can see that there are hash marks at every 5-minute index. So you can see what second it is fairly easily. And there's also a simple running minute track around the periphery of a dial as well. Now in terms of case finishing, outside of the dial you have a highly polished conical bevel. It's highly polished on the hoods of the lugs too, but flipping back to the side you can see there's some nice brushwork on the mid case. The crown itself is unsigned, but it's very easy to grip, and this is a manually wound watch, so you can actually get a purchase of the crown quite easily. If you pull the crown out to extremity, you can actually hack the movement and stop the seconds, and then you can set accurately to any reference time that you want. So at the level of a movement, there's a lot going on, so why don't we flip the watch over so you can see the sapphire display crystal case back. Alright, so look, turning the watch over, you get full display of Habring's in-house A11B manual wind movement. There is a total of 99 parts in this watch, and by and large, of over 90% of this watch is manufactured, assembled by hand in their facility in Austria. So you really do get a lot of hand-finished loving on this movement itself. Now, it's not going to be finished to the level of, say, like a Longa or like a Patek, but it's definitely up there with hand-applied finish to the movement. And you get some technology and precision inside this watch as well. So this watch does tick away at 28,800 vibrations per hour, or 4 Hertz. You get about a 48-hour power reserve, so about 2 days of juice when you wind up this watch fully. You have an anti-magnetic escapement with a Carl Haas hairspring in chronometer specification, so it's really accurate as well. And it's also shock resistant, has 18 joules, and you can just see some nice perlage work that's done, as well as some black polish on some screws and thermally blued screws in other positions as well. So now if you've been following my channel for a bit of time, you'll definitely know I usually gravitate towards tool watches or sports watches with higher water resistance. That is a certain limitation for these hand wind watches, as you only have 30 meters in the push-pull crown here. Although that does tie into being more of a dress piece in my opinion. And in terms of other refinements, the only thing I wasn't overly blown away by was the supplied OEM strap. Not to say that it's bad, but I definitely swapped out the strap on this fairly soon after I acquired it, and of course you probably see that through a lot of the B-roll throughout the course of this video. But at the end of the day, I'm thoroughly impressed with the Habring2 Felix. As a watch that flies under the radar, it definitely works as a dress watch, but I can see it being a little bit more casual too, depending on how you pair it up with different straps. But as always guys, I'd also love to hear your feedback in the comment section of this video. What are your thoughts on independent brands, and how does Habring2 stick up against the competition? Now if you guys do enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. It helps me out a ton. And as always, I can't wait to catch you guys in the next video.